Harvard's athletics director has canceled its men's soccer team season after it was found that they had created so-called scouting reports that said some pretty questionable things about women in the school, particularly women who are in the soccer team at the school.
Well,
now,
you really don't know anything about sports, do
I
you?
really don't.
Yeah.
No, don't know anything about sports. But this is not a sports story. It has to do with some of their questionable behavior and the way that they wrote in public documents about women in a very degrading way. So Harvard has canceled the men's soccer team season after the Office of General Counsel Review found that the team continued to produce vulgar and explicit documents rating women on their perceived sexual appeal and physical appearance. So apparently these scouting reports began in 2012. At least they got caught in 2012, okay? The 2012 men's soccer team created a scouting report of that year's women's soccer recruits, rating them numerically and assigning each a hypothetical sexual position. Now, CBS reported on this, and they give a little more detail about it, so let's take a quick look, and then I'm going to read you exactly what they said in these scouting reports. Take a look.
On the campus of Harvard University, the reaction was swift. The 9-page document from 2012 was first uncovered last month by the student-run newspaper, the Harvard Crimson, which detailed a sexually explicit evaluation of incoming female freshman soccer players by a member of the men's team. That list was then emailed to teammates, with some responding. Called the scouting reports, the list cataloged the women based on physical appearance, their sexual appeal, numerical scores, and in some cases described in detail a sexual position assigned to each woman.
The Crimson became aware of the documents a couple of weeks ago.
Marielle Klein is the president of the Harvard Crimson and a senior at the university.
It was a publicly available document on the internet. It was actually taken down after we contacted the members of the 2012 men's soccer team for comment.
After the article was published late last month, school administrators opened an investigation, which concluded the lewd scouting reports were more widespread across the team than previously thought, and the practice had continued into this year. The remainder of the men's season was then canceled.
And they were the top school in the Ivy League, whatever, division or whatever the hell you call it in soccer. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a serious consequence for what they did, but I would argue that what they did is pretty serious. Look, it's one thing if you're going to have, you know, your boys talk about like, oh, that woman's hot and I like her, or whatever you men talk about, right?
Like, you know how you're going to move on them like a bitch or something. Yeah.
Well, that goes a little far. But it's another thing to create a publicly available document where you name individuals coming into the school. These are freshmen, okay, coming into the school, and you refer to them and say things like, she looks like the kind of girl who both likes to dominate and likes to be dominated. Her gum-to-tooth ratio is about 1-to-1, making fun of her smile. Yeah, she wants cock. Mm-hmm. She seems to be very strong, tall, and manly, so I give her a 3 because I felt bad.
Yeah. No, not guilty. So we might have really a strong disagreement here. So they didn't mail this to the female team.
They just made a publicly available document on the internet where
Publicly available. It's a Google Doc. Why would anybody go into Harvard men's soccer's Google Doc where they're talking to one another?
The head of their student newspaper found the document.
I know, and she had a great time publishing it, and she should. I get it. She's doing her job as a journalist, but it's not like they made a public document like they put it on Facebook or they tweeted it out. That's a Google Doc is shared in a group. Yes, it's technically public, but it's not meant to be public, meaning like they're not rubbing their faces in it. So, look, young college guys rated the appearance of young college women. Shocking, breaking news alert. So, totally not guilty, in my opinion.
Yeah, just guilty of being dumb. I mean, it's not like
I don't even think it's dumb.
Well, I think it's dumb to put it in a Google document.
Wow.
I think that part of it. I mean, it's not like they went to Harvard or anything, but it's.
So you would be cool with your daughter going to college and then reading about how the men's soccer team talks about her wanting cock.
That's what guys talk about.
Oh, that's what guys talk about. And then they talk about grabbing women by the pussy.
They don't, but that's different. That's different.
That's aggressive, and I mean, it's.
So the difference between the Trump stuff and this stuff is Trump talked about what he would do, and what he outlined was sexual assault. I just do it, and I don't ask them, he said. I grab their genitals and I don't ask them, and I get away with it because I'm a star. That's what he said. So that involves literal, actual sexual assault, and it turns out, according to the complaints of women lodged afterwards, he actually did those things. Now, the soccer team didn't sexually assault anybody. So,
just
like,
because they
almost
didn't sexually assault anyone, just because they didn't put their hands on anyone, based on what we know, doesn't mean that this isn't wrong. So, look, if you agree with policies and laws against sexual harassment in the workplace, why doesn't this fall under that category? If there were a group of male employees in this office writing a similar document and I brought it to your...
100% different.
Why is it different?
I'll
Why
tell
is
you
it
why it's
different?
different.
It's not different.
Because one, they don't work together. Two, they're not on the same team. Three, the male team has no power over the female team.
They go to the same school.
Of course they do, and they hook up. So some of them hook up, some of them don't. And you know what? If you went to a frat party, some of the girls would be saying about some of the guys, he's got a nice ass, or oh, he's a fucking mess, or this, or that. And they'd talk about his tooth-to-gum ratio, and they would snicker. Because that's what women do, and that's what guys do. And we've been doing it for as long as humanity has existed. And so they put it in a Google Doc. Not guilty.
But you know what? You know how Donald Trump said this was locker room talk when he was talking about what he said on the bus and the assault stuff. This is locker room talk, and it's not necessarily defensible. It's silly. It's puerile. It's all of these things that are terrible that guys do. But this is locker room talk. Hey, I'd like to. Hey, there's a line and a limit. Though, you know, Jenks is not guilty. No, they're guilty of this. They're guilty of this. They did this, and there should be a consequence to having this come out. So I don't
What are they guilty of?
Well, they're guilty of degrading, of bad comportment in the eyes of Harvard, of setting a terrible example for other students, of creating an atmosphere within. I mean, I'm not saying high and mighty that those things don't happen. There are fraternities and sororities and teams and schools, and people are all young and all that. But I think there should be a consequence to saying things like this in a public way as a group of people that degrades other people.
The only thing you guys have to stand on is that it was a frickin' Google Doc. And so
well, that's what
theoretically, it is possible that somebody could go into your Google Doc and find that, right? But if they rubbed it in, if they did it in an actual public way, they put it on their Facebook profile or something, then I would turn around and be with you. That's uncalled for. You want to have private conversations between you, that's fine. But if you make it public, then Anna's right, and it becomes intimidation, and it becomes ugly, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. Here, they did not intend for it to be public.
Right, and that's why I have a problem with it too.
And they made a 5% error by putting it in a goddamn Google Doc, and they're like, God damn it, it turns out other people can look at that Google Doc.
Because these are conversations that are happening at every university with every soccer team and male soccer team and female soccer team, and they didn't write it down and put it in a Google Doc, which is why I have a problem with this death sentence sanction for these kids playing for the year. It's not a defense of what they did, but it's just sort of it's boys and girls, and boys are uglier, you know. And
it's just
and by the way, I'm not convinced of that. I'm not convinced of that. I won't even grant that.
Okay.
Okay. So
their language can be. Forget what I. Okay, forget that part of it. That's not the point.
We do report on a lot of stories involving women in athletic groups, creating these types of documents where they're talking about the size of a man's cock and whether or not he's worth being rated at a 10 or if he's worth being rated at a -5.
Okay, so they didn't put it in a Google Doc, Annie. Now, when you go to a club, you and your girlfriends don't talk about the guys and whether they're hot or not. Do you have them? Do you humor their approach based on whether they're hot or not?
That is so different, Cenk.
No, it is rating people on their attractiveness.
This is not just rating them on their attractiveness,
every single day.
No, this is not just rating them on their attractiveness. Talking about a woman saying, like, first of all, these are college freshmen coming in, being recruited into the soccer team, and they're being minimized to nothing more than vaginas. Let's keep it real. Is it an attractive vagina or an
every time I walked into a club, I was reduced to a cock.
I'm not done. Can I finish my point?
Okay.
It's a little different. I don't go into a club, even though I guess this wouldn't bother men. I don't go into a club thinking like, yeah, he wants pussy. Like, we just don't talk like that, right? Do I tell my friends? Just let me finish my point. Okay. We don't go in there. I don't know. Go ahead, just finish. No, I
I'm sorry
totally lost my train of thought.
I know, it's my fault. You're right. No,
it's fine. You think it's okay. We have a difference of opinion. When we have conversations about so-called rape culture, especially in Ivy League schools, and when we have stories involving frats going in front of, women's groups or sororities, saying things like no means yes, and yes means anal, and we get mad about that, we can't get mad about that because apparently that type of behavior is acceptable. You just have to be a little more secretive about it.
No.
Okay, you can't be public about it. That's the only difference, right?
No, I totally disagree, okay? So when you chant that in public, your intent is to intimidate people and to say we're in charge and you're not, and you're worthless, okay? That is your intent when you do it, when you're chanting publicly, especially something that crass. So if we say they meant to do this in private, but they're not allowed to do that, well, that's it. Okay, any guys out there or any women out there, you're not allowed to talk about anybody's bodies and whether you would do them or not, okay? That's it. Shush. Oh, that guy came by and you didn't find him attractive at all? He was 400 pounds and he says something awkward? No, don't you dare judge him on his looks because we'll kick you out of school, we'll end your program, etc. No, don't you dare to. You just reduced him to a body. That's all you did. That's what every woman does in a club. That's what every guy does in a club. That's what every guy does in college. That's what every woman does in college. So because we are human beings and we look and we go, hey, am I attracted to you or not? That's what happens. Now, they made the mistake of accidentally, somewhat making it public if someone else went into their Google Doc. Every guy and every woman has had this conversation in a college.
Okay, let me try to calmly explain the importance of language, okay? Language matters, and you're minimizing this to nothing more than people rating someone as hot or not, okay? This goes further than that because of the language involved, okay? Do women judge men based on the way they look? Of course they do. That's human activity, that's human nature, that's something we agree on. But it's different when you refer to an individual as someone who wants cock. When you use that type of language, okay, it's degrading. So that's the issue here. It's not like, oh my God, men are trying to decide whether or not they find these women attractive. Of course they do that, okay? It's more about the way they speak about these women, the way that they're degrading them, and of course they're gonna have a problem with that. I think that the language is wrong, and we disagree on that.
Okay, last thing. So I agree with you that you've boiled it down to the part that we disagree on, okay? So the language there, if it was public, I would agree with you. If they went and chanted in front of the girls' soccer team, you all want cock, you all want, Jesus Christ, that's super ugly. It's, again, degrading, intimidating, etc., okay? You took the worst example of what one of them wrote in jest to his friends, and then you make it public, and then you go, you see, he meant to degrade women. No, he meant to make a joke among his friends. This is actual locker room talk. Okay, so do they all think like, oh yeah, no, that's a fact, she wants cock. No, it's a joke, they don't know. They're just kids who are like, ah, yeah, that one's too tall, that one's too short, she wants this and she wants that. And yes, sometimes they say it in super crass language. But the whole difference is whether they meant to like put those women down in public in a way that they would actually hold them back. If they meant to do that, then I'm 100% on your side. I don't think they meant to do that. I think they meant to have a private conversation that now we're all privy to because they made a mistake of putting it into that document. The Young Turks isn't just us, it's also you guys. You make this show possible, and we want to thank you for it, and we want to grow together. We want to be too strong. TYTnetwork.com/join. Let's do it.